Let's talk about the communication with parents and guardians piece. So there will always be a learning curve. You have to make sure that you keep channels of communication open with the parents and guardians for a longer period of time. Having the communications just over the sessions or during the sessions might not be enough. The most important thing to remember that they will be carrying over the therapy for you. So be gracious, be patient, and you might have to repeat instructions multiple times for some of them. Keep channels of communication open for them to understand the process better. Now, you have to remember that it won't always be a parent or guardian. It could be a babysitter, it could be a grandparent. They might not be as tech savvy as you are, and they might be doing teletherapy for the first time as well. So make yourself available, maybe via email or a phone call, to answer their questions, clear their doubts, so they're able to talk to you outside of the actual session as well. Learn the likes and dislikes of the child. This is very important, of course. I mean, you would have known that in in-person therapy as well. Learn what will work as incentives, how to support them in case they have a meltdown. How would you minimize distractions? Now, ask the families to have incentives nearby, but out of sight. You don't want the child to get distracted during the session, and you want to make sure that you offer them reinforcements for the activities that they are performing. Ask them to read cues. Now, when I say them, I mean the parents or the guardians. They know the children the best. They spend the majority of their time with them during the day. So ask them to educate you on the cues that they might pick up that you might miss. Because even though teletherapy is effective, sometimes the subtle cues that they might pick up on, you might not. If you haven't worked with that child in person before, this will be especially important if teletherapy was the way that you were introduced. Review goals in the first session. This is extremely important so everyone is on the same page. Take time to break it down and explain it to them as needed. They will be able to tell you if there might be a trigger, if there might be something that might not work to your advantage that you have planned on in the session, if there might be something that might lead to a meltdown. So you can alter your session accordingly when you have that input from them. This is also why you need to inform them about the session plan in advance. Let them know what the session is going to look like so that they're aware, so that they know what environment would work best, so that they know to make the environment safe before they start the session for their child. And the last one, which is the most important one, is use them as models. Not only might it be easier for you to explain your instructions to them virtually, but the child may also benefit from the relationship that they share with them. And they might be participating more willingly when they see their parent or their guardian doing an activity. Once the adult understands what is required or expected of the child in terms of the therapeutic activity, it will be easier for them to help the child to carry it out. So explain your directions clearly to the parents and the guardians, have them do the activity for you, correct them where needed, and then they can be a model for the child. Let's talk about some tips and tricks for teletherapy. So first and foremost, prepare ahead of time. Let the family know what space and equipment requirements will be during the session. Tell them to minimize distractions if the child will be sitting for therapy. Have backups ready in terms of therapy materials and ideas for your session. Sit against a plain wall or door or curtain or any background that does not have any moving or dynamic objects. Those could be very distracting. Also, minimize visual clutter. Make sure that your therapist workstation has a good light source. Now, ideally, the light source should come from behind your computer, not behind you, because if it is behind you, it'll cast a shadow and the student or the child will not be able to see you clearly. They will not be able to make proper eye contact. They will not be able to see what you're showing them. So have the light source behind the computer or slightly to the side or overhead. If you have a rolling chair, that is extremely helpful in case you're breaking for movement breaks, or if you have any dynamic activities to show, a rolling chair would be really helpful. Make sure your camera is at eye level. So if you are in sitting down position, you do not want to be looking up or looking down. When you are, when the camera is at eye level, it gives the illusion of more eye contact. So when you are making conversation, it'll seem the same like you would be doing in person. Check and recheck your connection and technology. Now, it's technology. Slip-ups will happen. It is not perfect. Always make sure that your audio is working, your mic is working, no basic troubleshooting in case of audio or visual problems, and always have a backup. So what I do is in the first session that I have with my clients, I talk to the parents and I make sure we have backup planned in advance. So I let them know in case the video stops working or the audio is not working. Would they like to stop and continue later at a later date? Or would they want to stop and continue over phone? If the video is not working, would audio be enough? Make sure you're talking about all these things in your first session itself. Now make a list of household items. Why is this important? So being a pediatric therapist, I'm sure a lot of you have been lugging around your materials from one school to another, or if you're in a clinic, you have a good inventory of material that you're used to using in your sessions. But what's happened with teletherapy? Things have changed. You can't always send equipment to your client's house like you would like them to have. So making a list of these household items would be helpful because you can ask the parent things that they've been working on during a break or things that they've been working on for fine motor strengthening. You can involve basic household items in your therapy session. And it's easy to build a rapport with them while doing that because the child is already familiar with the items. You know how they're using it. The parents can play with them the way they have been. So making a list of these items that they can use during the visit it'll also help you tailor your sessions accordingly. So you might not have to get up from your chair and go grab things or ask them to grab things. Involve the sibling when possible. Now, this might not always be possible. That is why when possible are the keywords here. If your patient or client has a sibling, sometimes involving them in the session might work to your advantage, especially if the sibling is a typically developing peer. They could serve as a model that the child could learn from. Also, another advantage is having both the kids engaged at the same time. So the parent doesn't feel like they have to divide their attention or run between the session and then taking care of the other child. Here's some more tips and tricks. Keep distractions handy. Keep something like a book, the child's favorite book, some pictures, some toys. We have to remember it is hard for some kids to remain seated in front of the laptop for an extended period of time. So having something colorful or interactive that they can engage with will not only serve as a break, but it can also be a good icebreaker in the beginning. For example, it's your first session. Start with, say, a reading of their favorite book for the first 1 or 2 minutes. Ask them questions. Incorporate ideas from that book into your therapy session. OTs are very creative. We have that going for us. So that should not be a problem. Establish clear channels of communication. This cannot be stressed enough. Televisits could lean more towards training the parent or the guardian or the caregiver because they will be working hands-on with the patient. So having a clear channel of communication with them is essential. The best way you can utilize their presence is to have them act as models for the child, model the therapeutic activity or the exercise, and you correct them if they're doing anything wrong. Once they've learned to do it the right way, they also have a better understanding of what is expected from the child, and they can alter their movements accordingly. Movement breaks. Extremely important. Allow time for movement breaks. Go Noodle has some excellent videos on YouTube that you can access easily if you need to use them during your session. Also, there's yoga videos for children, and you can also use alternative seating if needed. The child could be sitting on a therapy ball. If they have a chair, you can ask the parents to put a cushion on the chair, which will allow for some movement during the session so they don't actually have to get up. If you have time for it, plan your sessions with pictorial illustrations, especially for some of the therapy that you would be providing. So for example, you are working on pencil grasp for a child, have pictures of a typical developmental grasp at that level, and then have pictures of what the child might be showing you at that time. Just seeing the difference in pictures might be extremely helpful for the parents or the caregivers to understand where the child is at right now and where the child should actually be at. Familiarize yourself with the language they're using. What does this mean? Now, you can't be multilingual and learn the languages all over the world, but what you can do is familiarize yourself with the names for the toys that the child might be using. There might be something, they might be calling their doll by a certain name, they might be calling their stickers by a certain name. I had a 2-year-old boy who I was, well, 3-year-old boy who I was working with at one time, and he would not engage with his blocks unless I called them block keys, because that's what he called them. So take time to familiarize yourself with the way that they are in their natural environment. You have to remember they're not at school, they are at home, where they are most comfortable. And last one, speak clearly. Repeat your instructions as needed and ask them to clarify so you know for sure that they have a clear understanding of what is expected of them.